Yo guys, what's going on? So, in a way this is a bit of an atrocious video, but we're gonna talk about it because why can we not compare the 147 division today versus the 147 division yesterday? Now, let's just ignore Marvin Hagler for a second. Let's just put Sugar Robinson in there for the time being, okay? So that's not Marvin Hagler in the top left, that's Sugar Robinson, okay? Just imagine that. What can I say, man? I'm not gonna be one of those people that, and I don't usually do this. Come on, I'm not one of them people who's always dissing the current state of boxing, and I don't really do that. I big up the fighters and I respect the sport, and I try to make the best of the situation that we've got. And I'm not really known for talking bad about the current welterweight division, but I mean, listen, just listen. Am I correct in saying that Danny Garcia is the best welterweight after Keith Thurman, ERROL, SPENCE, and KELL BROOK? I'd say he's up in the top 5. Yeah? I think right here we are currently looking at the 4 best fighters of the division versus, let's just say, Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Roberto Duran. Yeah, the best of that era. And let's throw Sugar Robinson because he was really the man of his own era, the best at 147 pounds, who was the best on the entire, in the entire sport of boxing. I mean, pound for pound, he's just brilliant. Let's just leave Muhammad Ali out of the argument for a minute. Sugar Ray Robinson, man, if he was, that you can't really compare him. He's something different. But I mean, excluding the legend of Ray, let's just take a look at these other 3: Roberto Duran, Sugar Ray Leonard, and Tommy Hearns. I mean, would these boys even get in the ring with these guys? I'm not convinced, right, that these fighters today would be willing to get in the ring with Roberto Duran and especially Tommy Hearns. I mean, they might, well, get in there with Sugar Ray Leonard and get a bit of a payday, but it's just crazy because these guys on the left were fluid, they were faster, they were bigger punchers, they were everything with. They just didn't have the weaknesses, without the weaknesses that these boys have today. I mean, even Errol Spence, who in my opinion is the best out of the division today, he pales in comparison to Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, is that even a comparison? Is that even a comparison? And it's crazy because these are 2 eras that we're looking at in boxing, and this is the best we're going to get now. And it's sad to say, but this is it. This is what we've got today. And don't get me wrong, they're brilliant fighters, but I mean, let's break it down. Let's really break it down, okay? We're going to break it down from worst to best, okay? So we're going to break down Danny Garcia first. I mean, what would happen if Danny Garcia faced off against Tommy Hearns? Oh my God. It would be a massacre. Tommy Hearns would knock Danny Garcia out inside of 4 rounds. Inside of 4 rounds. And I personally think that Tommy Hearns was the best out of this era. It's just me. I just think he just didn't reach his potential because of the way he was, and I just think he lost fights that he shouldn't have lost. I just think the way he fought was just reckless sometimes. But when he had his head screwed on, and if he just came to win, I mean, he was something else. And I don't know, man. There's just Tommy Hearns he's my guy in that era. He really was. But at the same time, Roberto Duran as well. Maybe I would rate Roberto Duran higher than Tommy Hearns. I don't know, man. They're all great. I love them. Just love that era. It's a brilliant era. Sugar Ray Leonard, I mean, that's not even, that's just, for me personally, I don't rate him as much as other people rate him. I just think he was magnificent. But, I mean, in terms of Tommy Hearns and Roberto Duran, I don't know, man. I think Roberto Duran was that slight bit better than Sugar Ray Leonard, being that he came up from lower weight classes. But I mean, they're all on the same level, let's be honest about it, right? They're all brilliant, they're all excellent. But look, man, if Sugar Ray Leonard faced Danny Garcia, do you know the whooping, the outboxing that Sugar Ray Leonard would put on Danny Garcia, and how much he would bust him up? He would bust him up. Tommy Hearns would get him out of there. Roberto Duran, he would prime Roberto Duran. Fast, quick, hard, ruthless. Man, not even, the skill that Duran had on the inside, I mean, if you put Danny Garcia in there with Duran, I mean, prime Duran, like, okay, given his prime wasn't at 147, but I mean, you know, him at 147, that night he beat Sugar Ray Leonard in the first fight. You put Danny in there, Duran would, he had quicker feet, he had better boxing, better body shots, and he just banged Danny out on the inside. But it'd be a good fight, that would, though. Believe it or not, it'd be a good fight stylistically, but Roberto Duran would hammer Danny Garcia. Sugar Ray Leonard would box the socks off Danny Garcia. Probably get a stoppage. Tommy Hearns would knock him out inside 4. Tommy Hearns was the man, trust me. Now we look at, let's say, the third best welterweight. It's out of either Keith Thurman or Kell Brook. We're going to definitely go for Kell Brook, okay? Kell Brook's at this point. I mean, Kell Brook quit in his last fight against Errol Spence. What do you guys think he would do if he had to get in there with the no mas of that era, which was Roberto Duran? Okay, Roberto Duran quit in the second fight, but Kell Brook came in shape. He came in ready. Roberto Duran, his entire career was based around that no mas, but if you look at what he did after that, and you look at his entire career aside from that, I mean, Duran was a lot smaller than Kell Brook as well, but you know that Roberto Duran would put some body shots on Kell Brook and land some big punches on Kell Brook late, and you know Kell Brook would not be able to handle it. Not that inside fighting that Duran's got, because Kell Brook cannot even box on the inside. It's just not, he can't do it. I mean, in comparison to normal people, these guys are great fighters, don't get me wrong, but when we're comparing against greats, I mean, Roberto Duran on the inside against Kell Brook, what would Kell Brook do when Roberto Duran cuts off that ring and he's on the inside attacking that body viciously, and he's disguising his punches and, you know, landing them clean on Kell Brook's chin? What would Kell Brook do? He'd quit. Them body shots, he'd quit. He'd get dropped, he'd get gassed, and he'd get stopped. Tommy Hearns, again, too fast, too slick, too powerful. He'd knock Kell Brook out. That's my take on it. Again, I think he would knock Kell Brook out. Sugar Ray Leonard, just put, again, a boxing masterclass on Kell Brook. Too quick, too fast, too agile on his feet. And just that brilliant, fantastic boxer that Sugar Ray Leonard was. I don't know if he'd get a stoppage, but he'd put a whooping on Kell Brook. A whooping. Let's move on to the next one. Let's just say Keith Thurman next. Although he's got 2 belts and he should be ranked at #1, let's just go for Keith Thurman next. Keith one-time Thurman, he's a good fighter. Now we get into the upper part of the 147-pound division, but let's put Keith Thurman in there with Roberto Duran. I mean, Keith Thurman was running around the ring against Luis Collazo. You put him in there with Roberto Duran. Body shots, body shots, body shots, inside fighting. Roberto Duran would push Keith Thurman back. Leonard Bundu pushed Keith Thurman back. And on the inside, Keith Thurman would get clipped. Roberto Duran was a much better inside fighter than any of these guys. He knew how to land the shots, how to find the body shots, and how to counter punch on the inside without getting punched himself. And he was relentless. Relentless was Roberto Duran at times. And he was fast, and he was quick, and he was hard. And he would be moving up from the lower weight classes. But Keith Thurman, the body shots, he won't be able to take it. Sugar Ray Leonard, Keith Thurman, right, would get stopped by Leonard. Let me tell you why. Thurman has been stopped in the amateurs. He has been hurt in the professional ranks. When you put him in against a very good boxer, he does struggle a little bit. Not even a very good boxer, just a basic boxer with some sort of skill. Keith Thurman struggles. I thought Danny Garcia would be able to prove that, but Danny Garcia just wasn't good enough. You need a straight line boxer like Sugar Ray Leonard or even Errol Spence. When he faces him, you'll see a lot of gaps in Keith Thurman's game. But I mean, if you look at the fluidity of Sugar Ray Leonard, Keith Thurman, again, he's like a start-stop fighter, and he loads up on his shots. He's not like that. He hasn't got, a really good quick jab, a straight right hand, and he hasn't got that boxing skill. It's just not there. These guys are not natural. I don't know how to explain it, but they just don't seem natural to me. Tommy Hearns, oh God, he's a sort of car-ass wobbled Keith Thurman. What do you think Tommy Hearns would do? He would knock him out. Again, Tommy Hearns would knock him out. Moves us on to the final and the best boxer of the era. in my opinion. I think in this era, I think this guy's going to be the guy at 147. It's Errol Spence Jr. Now, Errol Spence, yeah, is something different. We don't know how good this guy is. Even after he's faced KELL BROOK, he's got improvements to make and he hasn't peaked yet. Now, he struggles. You know, he struggled against the size of BROOK. He got outboxed a little bit. But he's a big dude. He's a big dude at 147. And I mean, how would he do against Roberto Duran? Obviously, it's you know, to compare these fighters to these fighters, it's just ludicrous, right? But I mean, if you think about it realistically, if these guys were in the ring, I think these guys, you know, you'd be surprised because I think Errol Spence would be the only one, to be honest, who would be able to mix it with them. I don't think he'd, you know, I think when he reaches his prime, I think it'll be very interesting to see how good Errol Spence is. But I mean, if he gets in there with Roberto Duran, who's coming up from lower weight classes, you know, Spencer's a big boy at 147. He can attack, and he's got good body shots himself. But I mean, personally, I think Roberto Duran would clip him up at top, up and down in the body. But Errol Spence, man, I don't know. I think that's a good fight there because of the size difference, you know. But I mean, hands of stone, Roberto Duran. I don't know, man. I'm not gonna make any more comment on that. But that's just a good fight. It's a good fight. Sugar and Leonard would box the ears off Errol Spence, you know, every day of the week, twice on a Friday, 3 times on a Saturday. Just too much of a good boxer. Errol Spence is not that much of a good boxer. He showed that against KELL BROOK. He can be outboxed, but he's just got so much power, and he can break the body down. He's a very good fighter, but he will never have the fluidity of someone like Sugar Ray Leonard. Too fast, too quick on his feet, too light on his feet. Errol Spence has proved his flat-footedness against KELL BROOK, in my opinion. Tommy Hearns, now that's a good fight because, I mean, could Errol Spence potentially stop Tommy Hearns? Because we know Tommy Hearns has been dropped before. And, you know, if there was one fighter out of this entire group who could beat, you know, let me restart that. If there's anybody in today's era of boxing, you know, when he reaches his best, who could beat any of these fighters on the left, I'd say Tommy Hearns and Errol Spence. You know? But, you know, right now, comparing these fighters is just ludicrous. But, I mean, we can do it because it's eras. It's boxing eras. It's the best of this era. I mean, when, you know, the sun settles, when the dust settles, we're going to be looking at this era of boxing thinking, wow, we saw some good welterweight clashes. And, you know, when Crawford moves up, we're going to still see some more clashes. But we're not far off. We're about a year to 2 years off unification fight with all, you know, with all the belts on the line. And I think Errol Spence is going to be the guy who comes up at, you know, the top of the division, and we're seeing potential. But when you're talking about Tommy Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, Roberto Duran, I mean, let's put, you know, Marvin Hagler and Hagler Robinson in there. I mean, Robinson for me would knock every single one of these guys out. He had power, he had speed, he had finesse, he had the boxing, he had the skill. He had the skill, man. And I mean, if he landed them big punches on KELL BROOK, he'd break KELL BROOK's, he'd smash his face in, just simple and straight. Danny Garcia would not stand a chance. Keith Thurman would get knocked out with, you know, the lack of a chin, and simple, and his body would get broken down, and someone like Errol Spence would just get his ears boxed off and hit with some big punches and body broken down, and you know, just outbox. Sugar Ray Robinson was the best. He was the best, and he would beat everybody in this picture. Every single person, in my opinion. On his day, Sugar Ray Robinson will beat every single person on this picture. Leave your comments in the section below. Subscribe as always to BROOK TV. Let me know what you guys think about the current era of the welterweight division versus yesterday's era of the welterweight division. I mean, look, Hagler was middleweight. Duran was best in the 130s. Leonard 147. Tommy Hearns 147 as well. I think he was a beast, but he went up higher. But these boys, they're just not cut from the same cloth, in my opinion. They're just not natural boxers. They're just not natural. You can just see that the only one who's close to natural is Errol Spence. He's the only one who's close to natural. But even he's not that fluid, classic fighter, you know, with that fluid boxing. It's just not there today in boxing. It's just not there. And this welterweight division shows it. Comments in the section below, subscribers over BROOK TV.